Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another developer Q&A video for Eve Echoes. Each week, Netties, the developers of Eve Echoes, take 4 questions posed by the community, answer them, and then post that response to both the Eve Echoes official Twitter account and to the Facebook page. Now, I know that not everyone has access to social media or wants to have access to social media, so each week I go through these 4 questions, I read the questions, I read the responses, and I talk about my opinions on that and how I feel it could change things in Eve Echoes for the better, or sometimes for the worst. This is, of course, an opinion piece, therefore you may have your own opinions that differ to what I say. Let me know in the comment section down below. Of course, I love having those kind of conversations with you. Great to get a feel for what you people think about how Eve Echoes is and what these suggestions could do for the game going forward. Now, we didn't get a developer Q&A last week because there was some Chinese holiday. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there's like a 7-day holiday in China in October, which meant the developers were unavailable for a dev Q&A, so don't worry if you missed last week's, there wasn't one. Now, this week I've chosen to go with a Thrasher covert ops, not just to make myself feel sad for the image here, because, yeah, I miss it an awful lot. It was such a powerful thing, but hey, because we're going to be playing the Tenuous Link game. Anyway, let's jump right in then to the developer Q&A for the week of the 6th of October through to the 12th of October. My goodness, in 2 months' time it's going to be 2022. First question then, would it be possible to add the estimated time of arrival for trips, adding to the warp speed bonus, null, low and high sec, and ship characteristics? The answer from Lansdott: thank you for your suggestion. We will add the ETA in the near future. We believe this feature will help most players. It's a small quality of life change, to say the least. It's not a huge thing, but yeah, it's nice to know that if you're going to be doing some jumps, either, offline and just autopiloting, or if you're going to be monitoring it, nice to see that those 33 jumps between you and Jita are going to take however long they're going to take, based on your average warp speed across those different systems, obviously multiplied by 50% and 100% for low sec and high sec, also with things like your align time taken into consideration, that kind of thing there. That's a really cool little thing. It's a very minor thing, but it's a nice quality of life change to be added, and I like quality of life changes. They're always good, I think. Moving on then to question 2. Hello there, I was wondering if there were any short-term or long-term plans to bring in the information command burst to increase weapon disruption modules, because apparently an Arbitrator Covert Ops 3, its tracking disruptors just aren't good enough as it is. I jest. Anyway, it is my feeling it would be another interesting dynamic for fleet-on-fleet battles. Thank you for your hard work and look forward to your response. Now, I do actually agree with that. I really was surprised, actually, that when the command bursts launched, that we got shield command burst, armoured command burst, and skirmish, but we didn't get information. Now, for those of you who don't know, information command bursts are basically electronic warfare and capacitor warfare. They have things like stasis weatherfire bonuses, along with things like Nosferatu, transferal bonuses, things like that. So they could also be keyed to add things like target painter effects, guidance disruption and tracking disruption effects, that kind of thing there. And I do think that could be an interesting dynamic for fleet-on-fleet battles. Unfortunately, it would require a pretty hefty rework of the command burst system, because the ships that used to have bonuses to those particular information command bursts, if you watch some of my older videos where I theorised about command bursts being added, you'll see that some of the ships in Eve Echoes used to have bonuses to information command bursts. Those got changed to all being either skirmish, armour, or shield accordingly. So you'd need to revert some of those changes, which could upset some people. I do think it would be a good thing though. Wilson says, thanks for your advice. We also believe that modules like the information command bursts and mining Foreman links will enrich the game experience. But, as information command bursts will affect the balance of battle, and mining Foreman links affect the balance of yield, we may need more time for verification and discussion before releasing them. Now, this is actually really, really good. It means the devs are listening, mainly because we're talking about mining Foreman links here, which things like the Orca and the Porpoise, having mining Foreman links, which is kind of a command burst for miners that increases your yield, which we don't need in the game right now. If we add that kind of stuff, it's going to continue that race to the bottom. I'm not going into the rant there, but it's nice to know that the devs have seen all of this and gone, actually, adding this right now would do more damage to mining than good, so we need to fix mining first, and then come back and look at whether we add these in the future. Information command bursts, on the other hand, as I said, other than retooling the ships to actually get bonuses to them, I don't think there'd be a big problem with that. I'd like to see E-War playing a bigger thing in fleet battles, rather than just who bought the bigger gun and who can listen to commands from their fleet commander better. I think having things like Vigils and Crucifiers actually out there in the field, would be a nice thing to have, and perhaps adding some command bursts that boost those ships up even further would be a great way of doing that. Getting some of that electronic warfare out there onto the battlefield that little bit more, signal disruption and stuff like that. I love it. When they first added it, you may have seen in videos me ranting and raving about how awesome it could be, and then it just doesn't get used because it's so poorly implemented in Echoes right now, other than on some very specific ships, cough cough, arbitrator, covert ops. But other than that, it needs work. It needs work, and I think that information command bursts could be an interesting way of doing that. Moving on to the third question then, and this is why I have the Covert Ops Thrasher, the picture of that on the front and the thumbnail of this video. Will the Destroyer and Frigate classes of ships be seeing any new balance changes that will make them more viable for their roles? Currently, many of our ship choices are relegated down to just use an interceptor. I feel it would be an emergency situation for players who fly these ships. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. It is an emergency situation right now, because simply put, interceptors do too much. You can talk to anyone, whether you fly them or whether you just fly against them. They are the defining ship in EVE Echoes right now. When you are building a ship, you have to ask yourself, can this thing take out interceptors? Is it just going to die to an interceptor? Because that is the linchpin. That is the thing you have to consider for every ship type, and that's just not good. You're building everything in the game around 4 ships, 8 if you include the Tech 8 variants, and that's horrific. They need nerfs, 100%, even if you disagree with how I would nerf them personally, and check out my video on small ship balance if you want to hear that story. Even if you disagree with how to nerf them, I'm pretty certain that everyone agrees these ships do need nerfs. The downside is, if you were to nerf the interceptors as they currently stand, then frigate pilots are left with nothing. Small ship pilots are left with nothing. There's no alternative. If you get rid of the interceptors, we have nothing really to use right now. So there's a lot of small ship balance that needs to happen. We need certain destroyers. We need fixes and variety to the frigates. If you just take out interceptors, you're basically removing a playstyle from the game completely. It's not that interceptors don't need a nerf, it's just that we need something for people who are currently flying interceptors to fall back onto, which currently doesn't exist. It's like banning driving in a city, but then not having public transport available, because suddenly now people can't get to work. Bad analogy, but I hope you get my point. Now, Wilson again responds, "Thank you for your suggestions. We've received some feedback on the diversity of frigates and destroyers before. Some feedback. That word some is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. For me alone, I think the devs are pretty much like, for crying out loud, just put a balance patch out just to shut Benzie up, because I hammer them on this constantly." Yeah, we've received some feedback on the diversity of frigates and destroyers before, thus we'll try to solve this problem in the next balance adjustment, but the specific plan has not yet been determined. Again, I will reach out to Wilson after this video and say, look, I want to be a part of that plan and decision-making process. I want to know what's going on. I would love to just, if you've got some ideas, bounce them off me. Maybe I can spot some of the obvious errors. One of the big things is that NetEase apparently... the reason that they went ahead with the buff to interceptors, despite everyone pretty much at that point in time saying they're good enough as it is, they don't need these buffs, they went ahead with that because, and I quote, "we assumed that perhaps some of the countermeasures at tech level 10 would help deal with them." And I'm not sure what countermeasures they were talking about, because there is no ship at tech level 10 that actually was capable of countering interceptors. And I think just having someone who plays the game a lot to, I don't want to sound condescending here, but to double check their work and just see if there's anything they've missed or that doesn't make sense, just to stop and say, hang on a second, why are you doing this? And then if they can't come up with a valid reason, go back and try it again, sort of thing. I would love to be involved in that. The fact is, they say here they're trying to solve it with the next balance adjustment. This still worries me. Unless that balance adjustment comes with additional ships, we're going to be in a bad situation. Because right now, interceptors fulfill your tackle frigate role, they fulfill your scanning role, they fulfill your combat role. And if you try to nerf them down to, do less roles, there's nothing else to fall back on. Which means the stealth bombers, they are very niche in what they do. I'm looking forward to actually undocking a Hound 3 and trying to take out some capital ships with it, because it's the first thing it'll actually be able to apply its damage against. Hopefully Explorers will get that third mid slot, which means interceptors don't need to be used as exploration frigates anymore. But what do you use for combat? Because your only alternative is literally all the way down at Tech 7 with the assault frigates, and they are just not good. They are just not good for what they need to be. So we need either massive buffs to those, which causes all kinds of problems in and of itself and power creep, or we need new frigates and destroyers added at tech level 10. And I'm concerned by the wording here. We will try to solve this problem in the next balance adjustment. I'm worried that they're just going to try and solve it by balancing things, and that's not what we need. What we need is more variety. The variety is the key part here. We need those new ships added. Give us a Rifter 2 or Rifter Assault, Tristan 2, Tristan Assault, Kestrel 2, Kestrel Assault, Tormentor 2, Tormentor Assault, and maybe even like a Merlin 2 Assault, Breacher 2 Assault, that kind of thing added in there as well. Get as many frigates as we can up to tech level 10, because there's just nothing for us after tech level 4, basically, except interceptors, which is horrific. Anyway, if you plan to introduce smart bombs for the covert ops bombers and smart bombs into the game to combat interceptors and drones, then please consider a new unarmed bubble and bomb-proof shuttle version of the interceptor with around 1,000 cubic meters cargo hold to keep the game mobile. Oh my goodness, I thought we'd gotten away with this dev Q&A, that no one was going to say, the whole thing of, oh dear, I can't, autopilot and just do everything AFK. I thought we'd got away with the no scanning question this time. Now, Cloud says, thank you for your suggestion. We have no immediate plan to add smart bombs and bomb dropping features, but if we do in the future, we will also provide corresponding countermeasures to make the game more balanced. What the hell countermeasures do you need? I don't like smart bombs. I've voiced my opinion on smart bombs in the past. I think we need to pause for a moment here, because I'm aware that not everyone listening to this obviously plays EVE Online. Now, smart bombs and bombs are two very different things. Bombs are launched from stealth bombers, the Hound, the Manticore, the Nemesis, and the Purifier. What these do, just bombs, is you activate it, and it drifts in a straight line from the front of your hull based on the direction you are currently pointing, and it drifts for 3 kilometers a second, for 10 seconds, so 30 kilometers range, and then explodes. And everything hit inside that explosion takes a certain amount of damage. Basically, this takes into account both the speed and the direction of the ship and signature radius and things like that. And it makes bombers really, really powerful. It's a very useful tool for bombers, and it actually requires a bit of player skill, because it's not just lock on and then click the button to activate the module. You have to be pointing it in the right direction. So if you're orbiting a target, you're never going to hit it with a bomb. You have to be pointed directly at it. Smart bombs, on the other hand, are just a high slot. Now, in EVE Online, high slots come in two forms. You could get something like a Thrasher that has 8 high slots, 7 of which are capable of fitting turrets. The 8th one has to be a launcher, and that could be a probe launcher for scanning. It could be a missile launcher for launching rockets or things like that. It could be a Nosferatu. It could be a covert ops cloak, because those are both high slots in EVE Online. Smart bombs are also high slots, but they're not turrets, so they can go into these additional non-turret high slots. What they do is when you activate them, they instantly explode outwards, kind of like a shield field module, except everything inside that takes a flat amount of damage. Smart bombs do not take into consideration your signature radius, your flight velocity, anything like that. They just do flat damage to you. The standard bombs, the stealth bomber bombs, take into account your signature radius, but smart bombs don't. They just do flat damage. So if you've got someone attacking you with drones, you can activate a smart bomb and just do a flat amount of damage to every drone or ship that is in range, which does include friendlies as well, which is the downside. Now, I've never really liked this, because it's a pretty straightforward, just kind of keep clicking the button. Yes, they have high power grid requirements, but they've never struck me as a fun weapon system. But hey, there we go. Now, I do actually think that bombs, the stealth bomber bombs, should be added to the game. I don't think that adding stealth bomber bombs suddenly means you would need a bomb-proof shuttle with 1,000 cubic meters of cargo hold. Like, for crying out loud. If you want to be running gate camps, then there are ways to do that. A covert ops frigate can easily get upwards of 2,000 cubic meters, and it requires you just to, use a covert ops cloak to go through those gate camps. If you want to use something a bit bigger, then the Tech 10 blockade runners, the Wreath 2, that kind of thing, again, have covert ops cloaks, they've got quicker line times, you can use them to run through gate camps. If you want to have something that is going to ignore gate camps, you can currently use interceptors. Now, interceptors may only have, 500 cubic meters of cargo hold if you've got a couple of rigs on them. If you really max them out, I know you can get more on like the Acheron, but for the most part, it's a small-ish cargo hold. You have to make a decision. Do you want to carry tons of cargo but actually focus on the game? If so, use a blockade runner. Or do you want to be able to just carry stuff AFK, literally hit autopilot and then switch your phone off? Because then you use an interceptor. But the downside of using the interceptor is the limited cargo space. Once again, we see someone saying, I want all the big things, but I want it without having to focus on it. And I'm massively against this. Yes, Eve Echoes is a mobile game. And if you want to, sort of mobile, offline AFK autopilot, go for it, but either accept that there is a gate camp risk to doing so, or manually pilot through nullsec and then just autopilot through lowsec and highsec. But if you manually pilot through lowsec, I do this all the time. I bought an Arbitrator 3 covert ops from a friend yesterday, and it was based at Jita. I was not around in the house at the time, so I collected the ship from Jita and I set an autopilot to Conora. And I autopiloted all the way to Conora. I docked up at the station there. Later on that evening, when I'm now sitting down and actually playing the game, I was able to load up the game and manually pilot from Conora through nullsec back to our home station. And that's the point. If you don't want to engage with the game, then expect to have to pay a price for that, basically, which in this case is having a very small cargo hold. Now, simply put, I don't think you should ever make something bomb-proof. I don't think you should ever make something completely immune to everything and then give it 1,000 cubic meters of cargo hold. If you want something to be immune to everything, then cool, take 100 cubic meters of cargo hold and be happy with it. Because you don't deserve more. Otherwise, why would you focus on piloting a Wreath manually when you could just literally sit there and autopilot back and forth while doing other things all day and never having to worry about it? Why would you even take the small risk with the Wreath when you could just have a ship that requires no risk and you just do it offline and not at all paying attention? That to me is just dumb game design. Like, seriously, you're saying, I just don't want to play the game. So don't play the game. If you don't want to play the game, don't play the game. It's really that simple. Anyway, I'm not going to go on a huge rant about this one too late. I've already gone on a huge rant about this one. I like some of these questions. That last one, well, I'm sorry, I massively disagree with the concept. 1,000 cubic meters cargo hold is huge for something that is just completely safe. Heck, even interceptors theoretically can be caught. But you know what I'm saying. Just making something completely immune to everything just to be a cargo haul, it's pathetic. Just no, get over it. I love the fact that finally they have admitted openly that yes, destroyers and frigates need some fixes. That's awesome. I think adding ETA to autopilot trips is pretty cool, and I would love to see information command burst added to the game fairly soon, and it's nice to know that mining Foreman links are being considered, but basically they are aware of how that would negatively impact the game in its current form. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this particular video. I do hope you folks have enjoyed this. Again, these are my opinions. If you've got your own opinions, let me know in the comment section down below. Would love to have a chat with you and see how you guys feel, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, and if so, why. Anyway, folks, make sure that if you've got a question you want to ask, you click the link in the description down below. It'll take you through to a Google Doc. If your question is chosen to be answered, not only do you get it answered, not only do you get featured in one of my super majestic, awesome videos, you will also get a month of Basic Omega as a thank you from the developers. Anyway, good luck with that. Get your questions in. Let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching it right the way to the end, and happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.